is well and wonderful and getting ready to have some nice celebrations. And Brice, this will be our last Monday for, I think, 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
3 weeks?
Yeah. Because we got Christmas and New Year's Day coming up. So, yeah.
So, what an interesting topic we have. Rasputin, my goodness, what an interesting topic. So, and pictures as well, like, you.
You know, I told you this off camera. I usually let like God or the universe kind of lead me to stories. And given that this is actually the last Mystery Monday, Deep Dive Monday of 2023, I was like, fair play, God. I know God has a sense of humor. He's really making sure we go out with a literal bang because...
Literal, yeah, absolutely. Well, I look forward to listening to more of your brilliant research as we go along today. And of course, some of the pictures that you sent, I was like, oh my God. Well, at least one of them anyway.
So you can't look away. It's like a car accident. You look at it and it's so gross, but you're like,
I'm like,
how is this
exactly.
All I can say is if I was with a man and he dropped his pants and that was there, I would turn around and leave. I would just be like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like, yeah. That's definitely, that's like obscene. I mean, yeah. But just everything about the story is a little bit obscene anyway. So, but I look forward to hearing. Hello, everybody. Susan, Lisa, Jessica. It's lovely to see you ladies all in the chat again. So, happy Monday, everybody. It's Marvelous Monday. It's Mystical Monday. It's Mythical Monday. It's Melodious Monday. Madness Monday. That it certainly has been as well. And gosh, what a year. Hey, wow, what a year. What a year it's been.
I know. Wow. I know. And I just thank you guys so much for going down this weird journey in these missing body parts this year, because man, the more we learn about what these guys get up to in their secret spare time, the more you realize like how normal you actually are. like I'm good. Like I'm actually a really good person. Like when I read about what they're doing, I'm like, I'm such a good person. Pat myself on the back.
Yeah, I mean, I must be so boring for everyone else, you know, like in the beginning when everyone starts doing these hit pieces on us and calling us witches and gosh knows what all else, right? Mm-hmm. And you know that they're digging around your personal stuff just to try and find stuff, because I mean, the thing that really used to annoy me was when they, and still does actually, they'd find pictures of myself and my granddaughter, and they'd be sending that around I mean, that is, I mean, anyone who does that, you got to know they are far from
pure
holy.
Evil. Pure evil.
Yeah, that is really gross.
Unfortunately,
but I mean, they must have found, you know, because they couldn't find anything else. I'm so boring, actually.
I know, same, yeah.
I must be very boring when it comes to digging up information, because really there's not much to dig up. I've got lots of unpaid parking fines, though, from many years ago. Like, screw that, I'm not paying them.
I'm so boring that I have to
snoop as well, yeah.
I have to snoop in historical scandals in order to have excitement in my life. That's how boring my life is, you guys. Like it's, yeah, I always say my 3-letter agency guy that's assigned to follow me around must be really bored right now, because
yeah, exactly.
She never leaves her house.
You're so cute. That's so nice.
She never leaves her house except for to walk her dog. Like, that's all she does.
Yeah, exactly. They must watch me in the morning feeding the pigeons out there with my dabs. Like, and I go, come chickens. I call them my chickens. So, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I think the neighbors have fun doing that. Yeah, watching me with that. But other than that, yeah, what can I say?
So boring. I mean, we're in bed by like 7 o'clock p.m. because we get up super early to practice. I'm like, we are literally the most boring humans on the face of the planet. But Rasputin was born. I mean, can I say, Shanti, I don't know what time of day it is for everybody watching. It is 9:14 in the morning here in the East Coast, but I released this information to our private little signal group that Shanti's an admin in as well. And our friend Steve who is about to open his own channel. Steve, I'm gonna tell them what your idea was, which I thought was hysterical. Because of the nature of this conversation, we're gonna have to replace certain vocabulary words constantly when it has to do with male genitalia, just because of YouTube. And Steve was like, let's play a drinking game. Every time she says wiener or something that is, you know,
you gotta take a shot.
Take a drink. So what a way to kick off the holiday season, and what a way to really piss Rasputin off, because we do know Rasputin from the Law of One book. We know that Rasputin did graduate fourth density negative. So what a way to just really piss that sucker off, to laugh at him and to have a drinking game out of his life and the nefarious crap that he was up to. So I giggled my way throughout this whole research, you guys. Like, I just could not stop laughing. And I feel bad. I was telling Shanti, like, I feel bad for the people who were alive and unfortunately had to deal with this guy. But I'm really happy for us because it's hysterical. So.
Goodness, yeah. Well, he certainly couldn't be one of these, right? We wouldn't call him one of these, that's for sure. But anyway, we will get there later. It's like gulp. Oh, no, not gulp.
I mean, listen, his destiny was given to him with his anatomy. Like, if you were born with that, then you know you're going to have to form a sex cult to the negative side, because it was just like, talk about a talk about a tripod. Like, literally, I know men like to laugh about this, but Rasputin, literally, I'm like, where did that thing go in his pants? I'm kind of confused because...
I think they used to have like those sock things, like a sock cock, right? Cock sock.
I'm like, I think about skinny jeans today, and I'm like, this dude would not be. I mean, this thing was disgustingly huge. Like, I don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. There was no such thing as skinny jeans in those days. I think that's probably why, right? No such thing as they probably had those big old baggy pants hanging halfway down their asses, like you see the kids of today wear. You know all about it because I'm sure there must be lots of rappers and things.
Yeah,
what the
they
rappers
drop their pants. Yeah. Listen. Talk about a one-eyed snake. Like, that thing, like a hypnotizing cobra.
Cyclops. There was a cyclops on another level. I think we call it the cyclops.
I mean, he literally had his demon physically attached to in between his legs. Like, this thing is not humanly normal. I don't even know. Like, they didn't show his. This is kind of gross, but this is where my mind went. I don't think the picture showed his ball sack. Maybe they didn't cut his ball sack off. But I was like, how big did his ball sack have to be to
support that?
I mean, I just want to know the anatomy. I want to know the anatomy behind this thing, because as a female, like, I don't understand why men like want to compare their wiener sizes, because as a female, if it's too big, it's not happening. That is painful.
Exactly. Have you seen this girl on YouTube? And it takes like a tape measure, like
she puts it to her.
Happening this, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
I don't know where all of that goes, right? Unless you have a girl that's like that long. I mean, I don't know why guys even decide that that's a good thing. But anyway, I don't know what Rasputin did with his, but I'm looking forward to hearing all about that.
Let's just, I mean, I guess silver lining, Rasputin really did make use of his assets. We'll just put it that way.
Oh my God, has anyone drunk yet? Yes, Jenny. How many times have we said that already? Are we counting? Can someone please just count there for us? Because I'm certainly got tea gang on here.
I mean, it is 9:18 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States of America, but a lot of people are already off for their holiday. So enjoy, you guys. This is, I had thought about, Shanti, I think I mentioned to you and Morné, like, maybe we should find like a Christmas mystery to do before we break for the holiday. And then this kid fell on my lap, and I was like, who needs a Christmas mystery when we have the gift of Rasputin's penis? Like, this, I mean,
yeah, I don't know if that's a gift. I'm not sure about a gift, but anyway, we'll be the entertainment of that. We'll be entertaining ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I found when we get into this, I'm going to have to talk about some of the professors that I listen to, because how I research, guys, like what works for me when I have a subject I want to research, I typically do my own research first, like reading different articles, go through different sources, kind of get a base idea of what's going on, forming my own opinions. Then I will go back and listen to different professors and different historians who specialize, and I'll listen to a bunch of them across the board. Some of them I think are compromised, but I still want to hear what they have to say. And there was one professor that cracked me up, because Rasputin, his famous story is that he kind of was responsible for helping the Russian Empire fall, because he kind of got in with the Tsar and the Tsarina, which we're going to talk about. And this one professor, and this would be me as a professor. He was like talking about the Tsarina. He was like, that bitch was dumb. That's what the professor said. That bitch was dumb. And I laughed so hard talking about how Nicholas and Alexandria, the rulers, which we'll get to, weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. They were kind of low IQ. And just when he goes, that bitch was dumb. Like, I just thought how hysterical that was. You know, most professors and historians will say it in a very eloquent way. Like, she wasn't the smartest person, but the fact that he just flat out said she was dumb, like, I just
Well, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Like, that's what happens when you inbreed that much. So, so kind of God's way of saying you're not supposed to sleep with your cousins. So,
I think maybe that was the problem, right? Oh my gosh.
Yep. She was definitely, well, her son, we're going to talk about Alexei, the son that had hemophilia, which is considered a royal disease because it comes from incest and, you know, inbreeding. That's it. Inbreeding. Yeah. I was looking for the word, which like the Habsburg chin. So we're going to talk about that, because that's kind of, Alexei was kind of the way Rasputin got into the family, which we'll get to. It wasn't Alexei's fault. He was an innocent child. It wasn't his fault, but we'll talk about that. But I know you guys are all probably pretty familiar with Grigory Rasputin, but we're going to just talk a little bit about his childhood, what we know of his childhood, because I find this very fascinating. Because when we listen to, like, one of my favorite channels to listen to is a channel called HD Tutor, and I can only listen to him for so long because he's a narcissistic psychopath, and he basically explains how all of this works with the psychopath. So it's very fascinating, and he's very just black and white about it. And it helps you kind of, for those of us who have a soul, who are emotional, we try to justify and figure things out logically. And to hear it coming from someone who doesn't, you can kind of like heal faster, I think, in a way, because you can kind of see it from their perspective. But something he says is like, when you are a narcissist or a psychopath, and I'm paraphrasing what he says, guys, so please go listen to his channel too. You are born with a gene, a narcissistic gene in your family. But sometimes that gene never gets a chance to show itself, and how it does show itself is by nature. So if you're not born with a narcissistic gene, then no amount of nature is going to cause you to turn into that, right? But if you are born with it, the nature that you're around can intensify this behavior. And so when we look at Rasputin's childhood, I was like, interesting. This makes a lot of sense as to what.
Wow.
That's
very interesting. I would actually definitely be, I mean, I know not now, but obviously I'd be very interested in actually researching that further. It's like when they talk about that narcissistic gene, that doesn't always manifest itself.
It doesn't. And I know there's a difference between a narcissist, like all psychopaths are narcissists, but not all narcissists are psychopaths. Like even the Law of One talks about this. Some narcissists are literally distressed souled people. Their soul's in distress, but some So I think that, well, Rasputin actually did have a soul because he was able to be harvested to fourth density negative, and only people with souls can actually harvest. But he chose, and we'll get into what the Law of One says because it's very fascinating. He was one of the few people who could remember, according to the Law of One, his past lives in Atlantis, and he remembered the destruction of how Atlantis fell. And so he used that occult knowledge to purposely pick. He intentionally picked the negative path. So if you look at what the Law of One says, and again, take it all with a grain of salt. This is just looking at what their information says. They says, you know, we're going either positive or negative. We each have to make our own decisions. And to go positive, which is service to others, you have to be 51% service to others. So 49% of you could be an asshole. As long as 51% of you is empathic and compassion, and there's a soul there, and you do generally care about other people, you're affected by that, then you're going positive. Now, to go negative, you have to be 94, 95% negative So this is why we see the diabolical part of the reason why we see some of the diabolical practices, because it's actually a lot harder to take the negative path than it is to take the positive one. And so people who make the decision consciously to go service to self, that is why they do what they do with the kids, with everything. It's because you have to be so diabolical that you can knock it out in one life and then be harvested negative service to self. And so when we look back at Rasputin, now what was interesting in my deep dive, and we know this for sure, there's a lot of things about Rasputin's life. Rasputin's life in a lot of ways has been kind of mystified. I mean, he was a mystic. He did have legitimate powers to heal. And powers, all the occult means is secret, and these healing powers, we talk about this a lot, Shanti, it's just a tool. You can use it for bad, exactly. You can use it for good. And a lot of times with the
I mean, if you look at the cult as well, and if you listen to Jesse speak as well about the light side and the dark side of the system, I mean, when they're doing their witchy battles and sort of stuff like that, they'll get the healers from the light side of the system to heal them. So, you know, that's why they don't die or show any physical wounds, because literally they will then be healed by the witches from the light side of the system, the healers, right? But I mean, of course, the mental and emotional wounds are still there, but the physical wounds are gone. So there's no proof of what you went through. Very
and they are on a mission. And that is why, like, you know, all these people are out there saying, oh, you know, all the bad guys have capitulated. No, they haven't, because that is not in their moral compass. They don't surrender. To surrender is service to others. And they're not going to go this far and do this much bad shit to then lose it all at the finish line by surrendering. So that's why I always think the law of one is a very important, you know, take it all with a grain of salt, but it's a very important work to study so you have a different perspective, so you're not duped into thinking something that isn't true. And it's interesting what you say, Shanti, because we'll see this with Rasputin as well. So one thing the law of one does talk about with people on a negative path is just because your service to other or service to self does not mean that you will not act in service to others if that means it's going to advance your purpose.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll do, but it's always got your own agenda at play, right?
It's the intention behind it. And so a lot of what Rasputin was able to do with his healings, I believe, was legitimate, but he was using it. So the people that were receiving his healings might have been benefited from that. I'm not going to take that away from them, because bless their hearts, I'm glad they had that. But he was doing that for a manipulation. There was something going on that he was a goal he was trying to achieve, which was founded in total chaos and total destruction. Okay, so this goes back. So he was born. Now I wrote down on my notes the 21st of January, 1869. Now some of the Russian calendars are going to be off by a few days, because the Russian calendar, we know that dates are BS anyway. But the Russians, I mean, they still celebrate Orthodox Christmas, right? So we know that the 21st of January might actually be more of our date system. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know we're going to get weird comments. No, it was the 10th of January. Listen, he was born in January 1869, but that's all you need to know. He was born a peasant in Siberia. Siberia, as we all kind of know, is a very hostile and cold environment. And it was a dumping ground for Russia. I think Siberia has always kind of been this dumping ground, because it's very
salt mines or something there. Isn't the salt mines? Isn't that where the salt mines are?
They had a lot of the gulags during the communism. It's just kind of where people were sent that they didn't know what to do with. It was kind of like a punishment, you know. And it's because Siberia is so freaking just hostile. You know, it's beautiful, but man versus nature in that situation, you have to learn how to survive if you're in Siberia. Like, that is not, I could imagine, not a very fun place to be born or to have to live, right? And so I imagine that being born in that environment is going to mean that there's going to be sides of your personality that are probably going to come out that would probably never come out if you were born in a more genteel environment. You know, on top of that, he was born a peasant. So we're talking hand to fist eating, extreme poverty, desperate times call for desperate measures in the 1800s. So there was no like welfare system or anything like this. It was complete survival. Now, this was a vast province where the misfits in religion and spirituality, I can't speak, would often end up. It was 4.5 million square miles of remote, isolated living. Many religious exiles and prisoners were sent there. Many secret religious groups were formed there. So he was born into I actually wrote in my notes when I was taking notes, Wild, Wild West, because it reminds me a lot of the stories of our Wild, Wild West here in the United States. Although the Wild, Wild West here in the United States was a way more friendly environment than what we're talking about in Siberia. And then I was listening to a professor, and he actually made that comment too. You can call it the Wild, Wild West. It's actually the Wild, Wild East, though. And so it's like there was no rules, right? There was no rules. And so because of its location, there were still many pagan practices going on. Now, again, pagan is a word that was created by the official mainstream church. It basically describes practices that are not affirmed by the church. So anything that is not Christian is considered pagan. And I want to reiterate that pagans are people practicing any pagan beliefs aren't necessarily bad. You know, I think I have a lot of those practices. I think you do too, Shanti. It's not necessarily bad. Again, any type of ceremony is a tool, right? It's like my teacher always talks about a knife. You know, you can use a knife to hurt someone, or you can use a knife to chop up fruit to serve someone. The knife didn't do anything. It's your intention behind it. And so it's a tool. So with that being said, Rasputin from a very young age was put in an environment where his survival was threatened every single day. He was around a lot of different belief systems that he was definitely influenced by, and that cultivated the person that he became. So legend states that Rasputin started having visions as a child and learned the power of faith healing by using his hands. Well, what is that? That's Reiki, right? And so again, faith healing is legitimate. I believe that he absolutely had this gift, this ability. I think we all do, but I think he was able to tap into it at a very young age. However, he uses this to manipulate. Like if I'm going to heal someone, or Shanti, you're going to heal someone, you're not doing it for any other person, any other reason but to help that person. You know, whereas he's doing it to kind of control. He's using it as a power, as power, right? Even though it was stated that magic was accepted as a way of life here, so magic was accepted. Like, so faith healing was not weird for the Siberians. They accepted it. The locals were often afraid of Rasputin. So from the time he was a young child, the locals were terrified that Rasputin was using his abilities for evil purposes, which I think speaks highly about his energy and what people, because to say that about a child, like I try not to just judge children at all. Like I try, you know, when child has a temper tantrum, whatever, I try not. That is a child that's going through his learning phases. The brain's not developed yet, you know, fully developed. But the fact that it's in our notes from history that the locals were weary of him even as a child just tells me that the Law of One is probably correct. And he probably remembered this occult magic, and he had full conscious memory of his past life. And he was already dabbling in this black magic.
You know what I would think for sure in that situation is obviously somebody or a number of people would have recognized that he has powers, and they would have obviously gone to see him or seen him work, or someone would have referred them to him or something like that. And that also reminds me of this African witch, Erica Makuzwe, I think you say something like that. She was 8 or 9 years old, and her grandmother took her in to this witchcraft, right? And she at the age of 8 or 9, she was more powerful than her grandmother. I mean, she was like the top witch in East Africa. So, you know, when you talk about that, it kind of brings that to mind as well. So it's like they would have been sort of probably introduced by someone who was older, family member or something, but their powers would become very apparent at a young age. And of course, they would have then started instilling fear in the population around them. And the minute that fear is being instilled, you know, just by whether you've been to see him or not, just his reputation on its own would have been evoking fear. So he would have gained a lot of power through that.
Yeah, and I don't want people to be afraid of me. Like that would make me sad if someone was afraid of me. But for somebody who's seeking power, they're gonna want to play with that fear because that means more power for them. You know, so Well, he would do this thing with horses. Now, horses for Siberia are obviously very important animals for Siberia. They help them move their produce. They help them move their grains in a very harsh environment. And horses and humans have always had a very special relationship, you know, as well as humans and dogs. So whenever a horse was ill, Rasputin was the person they called on to heal the horse. So he was, even though he was feared by the locals, he was needed by the locals in a lot of ways. But at the age of 30, he was married with 4 children. He was also a wicked alcoholic, as they said, and he was accused of stealing horses. Now, this makes me sick to my stomach. Another thing that they would do with the horses is that they would steal the horses and sell them for horse meat. Now, again, desperate times call for desperate measures. And so he was healing horses, but also stealing them and then selling them for people to eat, basically, which makes me want to cry just thinking about it. But he got found out for that. And at this time, he ran to a monastery to hide for sanctuary. And this was big, even throughout history. Monasteries and sanctuaries, churches, chapels were considered like no man's land. So like we look at like the War of the Roses, for example, in the 1400s, Elizabeth Woodville took all of her children to Westminster Abbey and hid there for months because at that point, any type of monastery was seen as like a safe zone. Like if you were hiding in a monastery, the bad guys could not come in and get you. It was like respected that was, so he ran like a coward. He ran to the monastery and he hid out there for a couple of months. In this time, he had like a religious experience, according to what we know. And he got introduced and indoctrinated into the power of ritual, right? And we know that the church, because we know the church is also part of the dark side, as church is a demonic name that means to, demon's name that means to hypnotize and control. So I'm curious, there's probably more he learned in this monastery that we're not aware of. From what we do know, he then decided that he was special. And this is also a sign of a 4th density negative being. In the positive polarity, we can look at ourselves and think, oh, I'm so special. But we can also look at everybody else around us and go, they're so special too. That's what a positive, even though you might be well educated in one area, you still, and someone comes to you for your expertise, you still respect your student, respect your client as a human being, and you don't see yourself as being better than them. You just know more about a particular topic, and so you're helping them. Does that make sense? So when we have people walking around saying, I'm a prophet, or I'm special, or I am the voice of God, that is a big red flag for someone who is on the negative path. The negative path works in a pecking order, right? So in the negative path, you have a pecking order, elitism, monarchy, royalty, where
like the military.
Like the military,
sure. Yeah.
Like the world we live in. And so the fact that he now deems himself to be the special one is another sign that he is on the negative path. All right. At this monastery, he met a holy man who had worked with the czars. This is where Rasputin learns that it is customary for the czars of Russia to have their own medium, their own healer. The Russians were pretty, in general, were pretty open, even in the Eastern or Western Russia, rather, where Moscow stayed. They were pretty open to the mystic. And this was also the late 1800s. Spiritualism was big all over the world. Helena Blavatsky was going on with her seances. Do y'all need to take a shot? Let me just say it. Wiener. There, take a shot.
Yeah, somebody wants that shot.
Anytime you feel like you need to take a drink, guys, just do what Jessica did and put an eggplant in the chat and just say wiener randomly so you guys can take your shot. Yes, that's right, Rasputin. We're laughing at you, buddy.
Fast runner having 3 legs.
Yeah, he really, Jeremy, he literally a very fast runner. I mean, wait, we'll save the picture for the grand finale because, oh my God, it is. I mean, if I went to the museum where it's located, I probably would stand there for an hour just gawking at it. So So he, at this point,
Exactly.
I have a lot of empathy and compassion for Rasputin's wife and kids because I don't know anything about his wife. We know we're going to talk about one of his daughters later on, but they were peasants. Of course, divorce was not a big thing at this time. I have a lot of empathy for them that he just like up and abandoned his family, especially for a woman with 4 kids in Siberia to now not have that. But of course, Rasputin thinks he's special, right? So he has to go on this pilgrimage. So he became transient. He would go on long meditations. He stopped showering and cleaning himself, that's why his pictures look so gross, which to me, listen, y'all. If I were a single lady and I was on a date with a man and he had not showered and he smelled the way Rasputin smelled, I would just turn around and walk out. So listen, fellas.
No, I agree with you.
Bathe yourself. That's disgusting. But he kind of, I guess he's above it, right? He's above like doing what humans do. Who
is the lady again that put cow dung up her hoo-ha?
Oh, Catherine de Medici.
I think maybe the two of them should have been hooking up a little bit. Could have been fun. Oh
God, these freaking that cheese, Jessica. You can get an eggplant. It's like a charcuterie board, right? It's like a charcuterie board. You can get an eggplant and some cheese.
Oh my God! Stop! Just stop already.
I mean, this might be TMI, but could you imagine doing what women do to men, like with your mouth, like the smell, like, I just like.
There'll be no shots now, everybody.
Everyone's wasted at this point. Y'all are wasted at this point. So, you want to have fun with your family on Christmas? Tell them the story of Rasputin and make them drink every time you have to say this. That'll lift your family up. Who needs to game apples to apples when you can just talk about Rasputin? But anyway, so this is what's interesting too, guys, because in this point, it's expected that he also got involved into organized crime groups in Russia, which doesn't surprise me, like mafiosa type groups, allegedly. And he also apparently walked all the way to the Holy Land, which I believe at this point he really got exposed to the Dionysian cult, which we've covered because the way he lived his life mirrors the Dionysian cult. So if you guys don't know what that is, check out Aquarius Rising Africa. We've covered this. Just look for it.
Yeah, we've done that. Oh, so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of listen to this story and then go back and compare it to, which is the Christian cult. Like that's the Christian church this day, is a Dionysian one. But the real upper ranks of the Christian church are the only people that actually know this, you know? So
yes, Katie. And Aloma. Alternative strawberries.
Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, yep. Actually, just hold your nose, girl. Just hold your nose at this point, or put some like oil. I don't even think the ancient yogis would have a
Caleb, squeak. It's so funny, Caleb. When we do the shows, he squeaks me out every time. I'm not allowed to go there. I get squeaked out with a squeaky toy.
This is hysterical, y'all. I just hope Rasputin is like angry right now for us laughing at him. Nothing pisses the demon off more when you fucking laugh at him. Like your horrific wiener and your smelly balls. Like disgusting, dude. Like, I'm sorry, men today are way hotter than you were, and they're clean.
Exactly. So, we much prefer the bows of today, for sure.
And they're kind, and they don't treat people, they don't think they're better than everyone else. So Rasputin, I would say you can kiss my ass, but I don't want you going anywhere near that. So
yeah, exactly.
You can
my goodness.
Say, must be pretty embarrassing, Rasputin, to not have your wiener in fourth density, seeing that it's sitting in a pickle
and having
jar.
it sitting in a pickle jar. Yes, for the world to see.
I can't wait to get to that picture, you guys. I'm sure our friends are already Googling it right now.
I was going to say, there must be drunk people out there watching our channel right now. They must be sitting with their bottle of vodka shots.
The American government's like, oh no, why are so many people Googling Rasputin's wiener right now?
Google bots are working overtime.
What did they discover? We were trying to keep this a secret. rank Putin.
Rasputin, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So listen, you're an idiot, Rasputin. Anyway, so he finds this sex cult called the Callist. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't speak Russian. Little known fact, guys, might surprise you, but I don't speak Russian, so I might be saying that wrong. But that literally translates to the word whips. And y'all talk about some fucked up sadism. I'm like, even in my sex life, I am freaking boring compared to these people. Like, this is, and so is my boyfriend, by the way, compared to these people, because what they do is so jacked up. Like, it is disgusting. You would have to be a psychopath to actually do this, because I think most normal people would literally cry. So it's the Dionysian. It's what they did in the Dionysian cult. So they were in a legal group. So this was an illegal group in Russia, and they would meet and they would have these orgies, but they would like beat each other with whips, like gross. And then they would have orgies.
So like they have this passion for pain, and then they just want to like shag their life away.
So that kind of turns into Rasputin's teachings, his teachings on Christianity, that without sin, there is no redemption. And without redemption, there is no joy. So therefore, you have to engage in the sadistic side of life in order to experience the joy of redemption, which, y'all, the original word for sin just meant to miss the mark. So I feel like he knew that, and I feel like he was using the indoctrination of the church.
Yeah, he absolutely took that to a whole nother level, didn't he?
Yes.
And that, I mean, you know, actually, but seriously, when you're looking at like this, some of these hectic Christian cults where they got to flagellate themselves, they literally stand there whipping themselves, right? And then from there, they believe they're punishing themselves. And then they are redeemed thereafter.
Redemption. Well, and so there also are stories, and I believe these stories, they're alleged at this point that they would actually, when they would meet to do their rituals, they would also cannibalize a breast of a virgin girl. So they would chop off a breast of a virgin and they would cannibalize, which is total Dionysian cult, right? So and a lot of people are like, this is just alleged. This might just be like more of folklore or legend added to the already kind of sadistic story. But after knowing what we know now, like I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it if they were not eating more than just the breast of virgins. And we're going to talk about his wiener too, like what happened with that after he died. So eating.
Yeah, we just look at this woman, Marina Abramovich, and that's a big thing in the satanic cult, is like this spirit cooking, whatever you call it, and they still have to be alive, right? Pregnant woman, babies out.
They would use virgins allegedly.
Okay,
But Marina Abramovich, she kind of looks like Rasputin. Bless her heart. I mean, she's not pretty. He's not handsome. So anyway.
So somewhere between those two dimensions, they've met.
Anyway, so Rasputin, rank Putin, and his wiener, the tripod runs all the way back to Siberia and sets up a chapel in his house, in his basement. So I would say that's a red flag for a cult, guys. If people want you to come into their basement, to their chapel at night, maybe use some discernment. Like, why aren't you doing in the daytime and out in the open? And he had a sex room under his house and started claiming that to be a higher being, that people had to merge with him. That's the polite way to say have sex with him. And so he would have sex with his whole congregation, basically, in these orgies, because he was a higher being. And I want to make something clear, because I know people are going to try to confuse this with tantric yoga. This is not tantric yoga, you guys. Like, tantric yoga, they talk about one beloved partner that you have. It's all consensual. It's you and them. There's no cannibalism. There's no beatings. So there's
no pain and suffering. It's really an energetic thing, actually.
Yes, and it's you with that one person. And this is what I mean by the darkness taking something, because God created sex, obviously. That was created by the light. And sex can be a very powerful thing with the person you love. It can also be a very depowering thing if it's used in a manipulative way. And so for
sex magic, when you look at the
Yes.
cult and now they use sex magic, it's the most disgusting thing with kids and stuff.
Yes.
As well.
And he was having sex with women and men. He believed that the Virgin Mary came to him and told him to go to St. Petersburg to help the royal family. So this is when he gets this bright idea that he remember he already learned that the royal family uses mystics. Now, St. Petersburg at this point was the capital of Russia. It wasn't Moscow, it was St. Petersburg. And some aristocrats had already come to seek out Rasputin. So we already kind of had an in with this group of people. He became larger than life. So at this point, Rasputin is a full-on Russian celebrity, like full-on, like Tom Cruise jumping on Oprah Winfrey's sofa. You know, like, you know, he is like feared, respected. The elite.
Was he as short as Tom Cruise though? That's the question.
Well, with that wiener, if he was as short as Tom Cruise with that wiener would have been way taller than him. So. You would have to really throw it over his shoulder.
Yeah.
You had to throw it over his shoulder just to walk down the street. I would imagine he was probably average height. When I look at pictures of him, he was probably like between 5'11", 6 feet. I that's what I would guess. I don't know for sure though. I mean, listen, all I know is if I was at the nightclub dancing and I saw Rasputin come up, I'd be like, ooh, no, next. Like I just like
out, move.
I want my man to actually smell good, to smell clean.
Exactly. Or at least not to stink, right?
No. And if it was modern times and he had a pair of tight jeans on, I'd be like, absolutely not. You would smell him coming. Absolutely, you would smell him coming.
A mile away. Ooh, yeah.
Musk. So at this point, at 34, he starts his journey into St. Petersburg. So again, y'all, he's got a wife and 4 children back in Siberia, and his wife is having to watch him boink all these women and men because he thinks that he's the god on earth. Like, and his sex, his magical wand is what's going to get people closer to the divine. I mean, could you imagine being his wife? Bless her heart. Like, bless her heart. That is some crazy karma she inherited that life.
Well, she definitely wasn't very bright. So let's yeah.
No. So by 1903, the wild-eyed mystic was the talk of St. Petersburg. I believe they actually say people were under his spell. Like he kind of hypnotized people, put a spell on them. Russia was way more open about sex than the rest of Europe, and it was obsessed with spiritualism. And I want to say this, like when we're looking at mistresses and affairs, especially within the elite, we have to remember that for a very, very, very long time, and this is taking conspiracies out of it. This is just the practicalities of the ruling class. A lot of times, in most cases, marriages were arranged not just for royalty, but also for the aristocrats between families. And so it was very common it was more common for men to have a mistress because women, they wanted to make sure women were pregnant with the correct bloodline. So that's why it was more common but to have relationships outside of your marriage for the aristocrats was not uncommon. So it wasn't like he was this walking freak show. They were used to this. You had during the reign of Henry VIII stuff like courtly love because all of these. So it wasn't expected. I mean, think about that. Think about if you had to marry someone that you were not in love with. You wouldn't care if he was out boinking some other girl. You know, he wouldn't care if it was just a political arrangement. So that's kind of where we are with the Russian aristocrats. And they're super, at this point, we're already starting to see a huge divide in Russia between the wealthy and the poor. The middle class is dwindling away. And so with the wealthy in Russia, we have just opulence. Like it is extreme. And when people don't have anything to work for, they start to do crazy shit, right? And so these women are becoming obsessed with this guru. I mean, he was like a Keith Raniere, like a Nexium guy, like this like guru that's now in Russia. And he's also healing people too. So he's gaining their respect. And the thing about Rasputin is they said that he would walk into a room full of like aristocrats and he acted like they were beneath him. Right? So he had no respect for authority. He was God's gift to this world, right? He did not see them as he saw himself as better than them. So the Tsarina was very suspicious are very superstitious. The Tsarina, which is Alexandria. I don't know, I might have seen a picture of Alexandria and Nicholas II. And Alexandria was the granddaughter.
Do you want me to check?
Do what?
Do you want me to check?
Sure. If
picture time?
Yeah, pictures. I just can't wait for the very end, y'all. That's gonna be a fun one.
Okay, which picture do you want up?
There's one. I think I sent one with the Tsarina and the Tsar Alexandria and Nicholas II. Nicholas II was quite attractive. Like, you know, usually royalty is not that cute because they've been so inbred.
Is that the one?
Yeah. No. That's the guy who kills him at the end. That's the niece of the Tsar.
I've got Maria and I've got hang on, that's what I have here. Alexei, Tsar Execution House, Rasputin and the children. Do you want the hang on? Who's this here?
That's Rasputin. That's Rasputin. Look, he kind of had big hands. That matches. That matches the wiener. Look at the fingers.
That's just creepy. I'm taking that off immediately.
I don't know. Might not have seen it. You guys can look them up. The Tsar and Tsarina. They were the last of the Romanovs of Russia because they, you know, spoiler alert, they died. They were executed. So Alexandria was the granddaughter of Queen Victoria. She was Alex of Hesse. So she was technically of the German royal line. And she was married to Nicholas II. Now, what's kind of sweet about the two of them is that of all the royals, they actually shared a bedroom. They actually really did love each other. I think the Tsar and Tsarina, which most royals did not, you know, think about that. Like, you don't want to sleep next to a guy that you barely know, that you had to be married to for political purposes. So it does seem that they did really love each other because they shared a bedroom. Now, so the story behind Alexandria and Nicholas. So this is a 300-year-old Romanov dynasty. They had child after child after child after child, but they were all girls. I believe it was Olga, Tatiana, Maria, Anastasia, which I'm going to actually talk about Anastasia one day coming up. Maybe that'll be our first back to our 2024 episode. And so the problem is that in order for the Russian Empire to be secure and for Nicholas II to have security as the emperor, as the Tsar, he needed a son. And they just kept popping out daughters. Now, it does seem from some of the footage that he did love his daughters, that there was, you know, he treated his daughters very, very well. But politically speaking, they needed to produce a son. And so finally, she had, sorry guys, that was one of my videos that just processed. Here we go. All right. So finally, she had a baby boy, Alexei, and she believed she got pregnant with his baby boy because she was doing all these spiritual rituals, fertility rituals to get pregnant with him. Now Alexei was born with, and I think I said we have the, he was adorable. Like, they're adorable.
Yeah, I have Alexei. Yeah. Do you want to see a picture of Alexei?
Yeah, let's put him up. He was adorable. Look at that sweet face. Like, he just looks so innocent. Cutie patootie. So cute. Like, what happened to these kids is so heartbreaking. That what happened to them, because they were innocent. They were just like, no matter what was happening to them behind the scenes, they were still children. And so Alexei developed or inherited a disease called hemophilia B. There's all sorts of different types of hemophilia. Now, hemophilia was a blood clotting disease. At that point, it was deadly. Nowadays, obviously, we do have a lot more medication and that can help with people with hemophilia. So basically, from what I understand, with hemophilia, so kids play, right? Like, we have skinned knees, bruises. Anytime he would like fall down and skin his knees, that could have meant life or death for him because of his blood. He had struggled with blood clots. Now, Alexandria, the Tsarina, the mother felt very responsible for this. Now, I think any parent, any mother would probably feel bad if their child inherited a life-threatening issue. I think any mother would be heartbroken and would want to take away as many. I mean, taking the fact that she's a Tsarina away. Like, I think as a mother, the things she does, kind of the path she takes is very, I think any mother would do that, regardless of whether they were in power or not, because you want your child, you would do anything for your child. And on top of that, she's got the pressure of keeping him alive because the Romanov dynasty relies on Alexei's shoulders, and they're getting older. It's not like they're going to be able to pop out another kid, you know. And so this was a state secret. They kept this a secret that he had hemophilia because they didn't want anybody to view them as weak. So only a few doctors knew he had hemophilia, and this is how Rasputin makes his way into the Tsar and Tsarina's lives. The beginning of the end, as we could say. So one time there was this episode where Alexei, they thought he was going to die. He was really struggling, and somebody came to Alexandria and said, hey, there's this guy in town. He smells like shit, but he might be able to do something for your son. And so any parents willing to try anything. So they bring him in, and Rasputin prays over the son. He knew immediately he had hemophilia, which they don't know how he knew that. I think he did have gifts again, but he's using them for nefarious purposes. And the next morning, Alexei makes a total 180. Like, he's completely healthy, running down the halls, playing. So at this point, Rasputin made it very clear that without him, Alexei would die. So the future, Russia's future, was in the hands of Rasputin at this time through Alexei.
Wow. Yeah.
And as a mother, so we have to give her a little, I mean, even though that guy was like, she was dumb, I think we have to give her a little bit more credit, because I think any mother would not be thinking rationally when their child is that sick. So he owned the palace. People said that he just walked in and out of the palace at will. He kind of controlled the Tsar and the Tsarina. He became a complete, controlled what they did. So at this point, Rasputin is now, the mad monk is now controlling Russia. Okay. Now, this is what's scary too. It is believed that he had complete access to the daughters. That comment was made, and one of the professors I listened to, and the person interviewing the professor said, what do you mean access? And he goes, what do you think I mean by that? And I sent the picture of him with, they're all in white, where he's with the mother and the 4 daughters.
The Rasputin children, this one.
Children, yeah. So that's Rasputin with the daughters, and it looks like one of the maids. The mother's the one standing up beside him. All right, and there's little Alexei with his hat on. Just adore. So my heart breaks for these little girls. Now, I don't know if the parents knew what was going on or not. I have no idea. Or sometimes I think things are so hard to process that you just ignore them. But I have no doubt, knowing what we know now, I have no doubt that he was doing inappropriate things with these girls. No doubt in my mind that he was not.
Yeah.
So he also became the most powerful man in Russia too, through his services. He was booked. He ended up creating his own religious dogma and doctrine. So, and he would have these ceremonies where he would have a feast. So they would feast out and gorge themselves on food. They would drink excessively, and then they would have orgies at his apartments. So this is happening all over, this is happening with all of the aristocrats in his own apartments. And then he's going and servicing. Now, people believe that Alexandria and Rasputin have a love affair. I actually don't need that. I don't believe that. I think that he actually toyed with Alexandria. I think that Rasputin was smart enough to keep her wanting more, but not going there, so that he could continue puppeting Russia, if that makes sense. So he said, and I told you the crux of the belief, that without sin, there is no life. Without sin, there is no repentance. Without repentance, there is no joy. So that was the crux of his belief system. Many people actually believed he was the second coming of Jesus. That was something I learned in my research. I did not know that there was a huge theory. So that makes you have to really be careful. And we see that a lot. There's a lot of comparisons to the truther movement in this, where we have a lot of controlled opposition. Rasputin, you can say, was 100% a controlled opposition. He was working for the negative side, and he got in with the leaders, and people were saying he was the second coming of Christ. This is a huge lesson for us to learn about discernment, and not putting all your power into one person or one movement, and maintaining that your sense of self, because this is what's pulling down this empire. And so when you believe somebody is the second coming of Jesus, then in your eyes, they can do no wrong. And so the wrong that they are doing is not being handled. Meanwhile, he's raping children, right? So, you know, sex equals religions. So Rasputin also taught that sex equals religion, which equals miracles, which isn't wrong. Like sex with your partner can create life. That's a miracle, you know. But
exactly.
You know, there was one thing. At this time, a lot of women were being diagnosed with what they called hysteria. Okay. And think about it this way again, if you're an aristocratic woman, in the United States, they used to put women in psych wards for having hysteria. So if you're an aristocratic woman and your husband has a mistress and he's not boinking you, you have needs and they're not being met. And so it causes your hormones to go a little off, right? And so these women would come to Rasputin with hysteria. He would boink them and then they would feel better because they had sex. So this is just basic biology. So I thought that was interesting. Now, a lot of the other authorities, the men around Rasputin, did not like Rasputin because they could see the power he was wielding over the Tsar and the Tsarina. He was definitely making enemies. He was followed by the secret police. The records show that he was literally having sex all day long. Like, y'all, I'm exhausted just reading his. At some time, you gotta take a night. At some point, you gotta have a headache and like take a night off because this man was literally boinking all day long. No wonder his wiener is so swollen, which we'll see it in a minute. I mean, like, I can't. I mean, that is exhausting to me. I was reading through this and I was like, what the hell? I was like, I can't. All right. He was going to clients' houses and servicing them, and then he was going and picking up prostitutes and bringing them to a local bathhouse. Now, bathhouse in Russia, a banya is what it's called. It's a Russian steam bath with a wood stove. This is a huge part of Russian culture. Many people believe occult practices happen here for both good and bad reasons. Rasputin used these bathhouses as a place of worship, and he would often beat up the prostitutes before having sex with them, which makes me think they were not consenting to being beaten because they were actually prostitutes. They were there. Anyway, now this reminds me a lot of like sweat lodges that we have today. Sweat lodges can be used for spiritual purposes, but they also can be used for bad spiritual purposes, right? So the heat will induce a sense of, will heighten some senses and dull other senses. And so you are, in a lot of ways, in sweat lodges, you are able to kind of commune with the divine through the veil, if that makes sense. Now, that's not a recommendation. Some people do not do well in sweat lodges. And most people who run sweat lodges will actually have you fill out medical forms and make you understand what you're signing up for before you go into them. And in most cases, if you need to leave, like if it's too much, they will let you leave. So I just want to make that clear. If you ever get involved in sweat lodge stuff, just make sure it's on the up and up and they're not going to keep you in the sweat lodge. So he got crazier. He would be often seen talking to himself, yelling and screaming. People said that he was performing the devil's miracles, not God's. Church authorities trapped him in a basement and accused him of working for the devil, beat him with a crucifix, and grabbed his penis. How could you not? It's so big. Like they probably meant to grab his arm, and it was so big they thought it was his arm
or a leg, or his left leg.
Yes. Now Rasputin told on them. So after he got abducted by these priests and beaten, he ran off to the Tsarina, the little coward, little shit that he is, and told on them. So she banished the men. So they decided they were going to kill him. Many attempts were made to take Rasputin out. He was stabbed by an ex-prostitute hired by the church in 1914. Now, let me explain this too. Like I said, the church is not good, right? Rasputin nor the church are on the positive. They're both on the negative path. But what do I say all the time? What's the famous saying? There's no honor amongst thieves. We see the cabal fight themselves all the time for power, right? So that doesn't surprise me. She actually stabbed him. I think I might have seen a picture of her. I think she had syphilis or something because her
Which one is this?
The prostitute. She has her nose is missing, so it looks like she might have had syphilis. So they paid her.
I have Rasputin and the children. No, I don't have that. Maria Rasputin I have.
Okay, never mind. You guys just Google if you care, just Google the prostitute who stabbed Rasputin. Obviously she had syphilis. So syphilis makes people do weird things, as we talked about with Charlie Chaplin's mom. So she stabbed Rasputin.
Cray cray.
He stabbed Rasputin and she pulled his intestines out.
Sean says that's not true. He had a tiny
penis. Wait till you see it. Why not? If you think that's tiny, I'd be afraid to look at the people you've been with, because thing is bigger than my biceps. Like no. Just wait, y'all. Just wait. It's so big that people have questions. I mean, it's so big that people have questioned if it's a cow's wiener or not. I think it's actually, was it a giant finger? Oh, I can't. We'll have to let Marcella tell that story about her. Yeah. So, so y'all just wait. Like, listen, it's a while. So after he got his intestines pulled out by this prostitute, he was. I laugh because what kind of scandalous life do you have to leave to have that in your timeline?
Exactly.
A prostitute pulled
oh my gosh.
So he was in the hospital when World War I started. Okay. So the Tsar, Nicholas II, decided to join the war. Now, Nicholas II was never very popular, and that when he first joined World War I, he became popular. The Russian people loved him, but Rasputin told him, do not get involved in this war. And Rasputin was right, because over time, it became really bad for the Russians, and the tide turned on the Tsar. So, when Rasputin came back to St. Petersburg, the Tsar was off dealing with the war, and so now Rasputin was really in charge. So he was hiring and firing officials. He was, for all intents and purposes, he was the Tsar of Russia. All right, 4 million Russians were killed during World War I. Inflation skyrocketed. Looting and theft were now common. Now, if y'all want to have a dose of sobriety for a moment, if you go back and look at what the journalists were saying about especially St. Petersburg at this time, it's very similar to what's going on right now in our world. So it's terrifying. Because of the war, the people were pissed and wanted a revolution. It was St. Petersburg was described as a lunatic asylum. They said people were deranged and no one knew what was real or what was false. Talk about the truther community. No one knows what's real or what that's false. There's derangement going on, right? And it reminded me, because a lot of people in this truther community are waiting for Nassara to come in, waiting for med beds, which is another form of communism, right? Which is what the Bolshevik Revolution came into Russia. And so we have to see that history is repeating itself. We don't want anybody bringing us money and just handing us money. That's if you allow someone to take care of you, you allow someone to control you. Like, we need to wake up. Like, this is a very sobering story of reality of and now we can see how the cabal has played the truther community with opposing forces, just like they did in St. Petersburg. It's a battle between two bad guys, right? So Rasputin at this point did start to lose his ability. So he started to lose his abilities. He believed that God was sending him to be a sacrifice. Told the Tsarina that if he was murdered, her family would follow, right? And that happened, okay? Now, we know that the real God, the real creator, doesn't do sacrifices. We know that's the Dionysian cult that does sacrifices. So, and people did think he was the second coming of Jesus. So this is interesting to me. So all of a sudden now gossip is going around the town that Rasputin was a spy from Germany. Now, remember Alex of Hesse, Alexander the Tsar was from Germany. We're in World War I right now. So now people are really concerned. Where Rasputin had popularity, now people are like starting to get really nervous about this guy. They called St. Petersburg the devil's town. The powers that be had to get rid of Rasputin. And so Felix Yusupov, the first picture you showed up of the handsome man and his wife, he was a Russian aristocrat married to the Tsar's niece, one of the wealthiest men in Russia. Rumored he had homosexual relations with Rasputin. With 2 other men, he decided to kill him. They brought Rasputin to the palace under the guise of a housewarming, gave him a plate of food and wine. There was enough cyanide to kill Rasputin. 2.5 later, Rasputin was still alive. Like, this man just would not die. So these people are freaking out because he's been eating all the cyanide and he's fine. Was he protected by the devil? I don't know. So Felix Yusupov got so upset that he went and grabbed a gun and started shooting him. After a while, he was still alive and fighting back. Then he collapsed on the floor. They thought he was dead. Felix and the other 2 men went upstairs to talk to his wife, who was the niece of the Tsar. When they came back, the body was gone. So they freaked out. They found Rasputin running through the courtyard, bloody from all the bullet hole wounds, and then they shot him again. Now, at this point, they took Rasputin by 5 a.m. to the river. Okay? Now, at this point, no one knew that his penis had been cut off. We'll get to that later. We don't find that out till later. But at 5 a.m., he was brought to the river. 2 days later, his body surfaced, frozen. Now, when they did an autopsy, they realized he had died from drowning. So even when they threw him in the river, he was not dead. Now, Steve made a funny comment. Steve made a funny comment that maybe it was cutting off his wiener that killed him. But maybe that was the source of his magical powers, was that wiener. They cut it off.
Exactly.
Now,
but like Samson and Delilah, right?
I cut the hair off, except for now it's the wiener. So now, when they pulled the body out and dumped it on the side, people were a group of people were still so mesmerized by Rasputin that they started to scoop up the water he was in, because they thought it was holy, because it was Rasputin. Now, his body was buried, and then it was dug up and burned later. Within 12 months, the Tsar and his family were killed by a firing squad. Okay, so that did his prophecy. He died, and then within 12 months, and I sent that picture of the home. You guys probably all know the story of Alexandria and Nicholas, where they were taken by the Bolshevik and they were shot to death.
Are you looking for I've got the one year Tsar execution house.
The house you can see the famous. So people are having a hard time jogging their memory. They took the family down. They told them they were having a photo or something, and they shot them all to death. The children, everything. So some of the servants were shot. All right. So how do we know that he had his wiener cut off? Well, my friends. Well,
I want to know who kept that thing. Who kept it alive?
Let's set the scene. Let's set the scene. Let's imagine you're a young girl. You grew up in Siberia. Your father has gone off to be this holy man for the Tsar. You now have the fall of Russia. You're living in Paris as a circus person. You're training lions, right, for the circus. And all of a sudden, you find through some of your clients that there is a cult in Paris, France, worshiping your father's Willie. You think you got daddy issues? I cannot imagine what that must be like to find out there is a cult literally worshiping my father's schlong. Like, how traumatizing is that? She even learned that this cult would use his wiener in their practices, like use it, and they would take, sorry, they're doing yard work, that might sound a little loud. They would take bits of it and eat it. They would give it to people for the magical powers. So, Maria Rasputin, I think I sent one of her pictures. She ended up taking the penis into her possession. I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I would just be like, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't know that and go on with my life. It's not like she really knew her dad anyway, because he was off boinking all the women in St. Petersburg. So
I'm wondering what she's doing, the bloody lion there, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, is that what happened to his
mysticism runs in her family if she's able to calm a lion down. But she took it into her possession. And then in the 1970s, she was desperate for money, so she sold it to someone who put it in the I have it now at the Museum of Erotica in St. Petersburg. So now, how did it get to Paris? Well, we know the Bolshevik Revolution was right on the heels, right? So Felix Yusupov and all the peoples of the royal family and the aristocrats who were not executed had to go into exile. Where did Felix go into exile, my friends? Paris, France. So he is the one who brought the penis into Paris, France. So my theory is that he didn't take out Rasputin because he was worried Rasputin was going to destroy Russia. I think there were other reasons behind this. And I mean, you want to show the picture?
Finally, the picture.
Y'all sat through all of that for this picture.
Hold on. You look at that guy's face.
I mean, that guy's like probably just dead staring his ex-girlfriends, being like, at least I didn't have this thing. I mean, it must be a little swollen from being pickled. Now, a lot of people will say that it's a cow's wiener and not Rasputin's, but they've done the testing, guys. This is Rasputin's wiener. Yeah, people think it looks like an animal penis. I've never seen a cow's penis. I've never interested me to look. But no, they've done the testing, guys. That's Rasputin's penis. And,
they would have tested it, that's for sure.
It's still being used, my friends, I believe, for occult purposes. And we talked a little bit last week, or the week before, with Latte the Impaler.
You're right, Katie. You can't unsee that. I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
Just, you know what, ladies and men.
Once you see that thing, it's like, ew, you're done for, boy. You're done for. That's for sure.
Yes, like, listen, the ladies out there who have a husband, for the men out there who have a husband or boyfriend too, maybe go home and just tell your spouse that you appreciate what they've got.
What the heck?
That you're so grateful that theirs is just perfect. And I mean, in my opinion, wieners are not pretty. They're not like no girl wants a dick pic. Like, that's just not, they serve a purpose.
It's not gonna happen, yeah.
No, it's not. That's not my favorite part of a man's body. It just serves a purpose. That's it. But like, just maybe give your man some appreciation that you're very grateful for what he has, and you're really grateful that there are not any women that are trying to eat it. And
that's like so bad.
Well, I'm telling you, the more you study this stuff, the more you're like, that's
like depraved on another level.
You guys, like, everyone, the first pickle. Katie just said the first pickle. Y'all are hysterical. Like, I know Rasputin's probably all pissed right now in his well, the Law of One does say again that, and if y'all are interested in reading that channeling about Rasputin, I'll tell you guys, if you have your Law of One book, I'll tell you exactly where it is. You can look it up yourself. It is the channeling. It's session 11 from January 28th, 1981. And you could read all about Rasputin and the Law of One, where he literally went for, on purpose went fourth density negative. And we have nothing left over but the souvenir of his wiener, his tallow wax.
So I'm sure he would have gone on purpose, because definitely would have wanted to use that as his magical wand. I'm sure it makes sense, because when someone chopped it off, that's when, I mean, it didn't take him long to die after that, right?
Okay, I have to agree. With Lanessa, I hope I'm saying that right. Unless I'm in love, I don't want to see it, touch it, feel it, or taste it. 100%, girl. Unless I'm in love. Like, I'm in love when I'm willing to actually do things with it. Because otherwise, like, I'm sorry, man. It is not a glorified piece of anatomy you think it is. Women, I think, would much rather see a picture of your chest or your biceps. The one-eyed snake is not your best feature. It's just not.
Cyclops.
It's Cyclops. It is not your best feature. Unless I'm in love, that's when I really love a guy, is when I'm willing to do that, because
exactly.
Otherwise, So, a Harry Peter instead of Harry Potter.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all are hysterical. And also we talked about with Vlad the Impaler that Somerset Belanoff was a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, where Somerset Belanoff is also a descendant of Rasputin. Rasputin had an affair with the Tsarina's sister, allegedly, and she got pregnant, and it's through that line that Somerset Belanoff is around. So
Thing is, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he's like fully functioning through old Somerset Belanoff nowadays.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I definitely, you guys, I absolutely would, again, recommend you read The Law of One for yourself so you understand more. The more you understand, and I'm sure you feel this way, Shanti, with all the interviews you do, all the whistleblowers, the more you intellectually understand what their purpose is and what their intent is, the more information you have to take care of yourself and protect yourself. I mean, the Cassiopeans say, knowledge protects, knowledge is power, knowledge is infinite. And so you can call bullshit out because you know what they're doing. The one-eyed Willie gives me the willies. Girl, me too. Listen. I'm going to say this again for the boys in the back who didn't hear. No girl wants a dick pic. No girl wants that. Send her roses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine getting that Willie in your... It would just be like left on red. I would get it, just leave it on red, not respond. I'd be like,
yeah, well, I got a dick pic once, and what I did with it, and I actually decorated it. I got my friend to decorate it, and I threatened. I did. I said to her, please. I said, this dude sent me dick pic, and I was like this close to putting it on Facebook.
Oh, I bet our trolls are gonna start sending us pictures. Listen. I will. Shanti and I can decorate them and create a whole Instagram account just of your dick pics you send us because it's disgusting, you guys.
Like, get out of here, you lunatic! And he was one of these Kiwi guys, the tribal guys. What do you call them? The tribal New Zealanders, the Maori, whatever. Yeah. No, did not like that at all. It was such a shock to my system. We wake up in the fucking morning and you get a dick pic. No.
I mean, so talk about some morning wood.
Best moment, that's for sure.
You know how men wake up and they're got a tent, they pitched a tent. Could you imagine that tent? You would wake up and you just feel the breeze because it was so big, like the whole duvet would lift up off of your legs. You just feel the breeze come through.
Put like little flowers on it, little hearts and things.
Put a wig on it, Rasputin's wig and its beard.
How funny.
I'm listening. Yeah, okay. Vanessa, I got a big old African one sent to me out of nowhere. I didn't even know who he was. Someone I randomly met at work. Listen, it was traumatizing. Listen, I was thinking they say once you go black, you don't go back. But I would say that the next time someone says that to me, I'm going to be like, have you seen Rasputin, though? Because Rasputin was just as white as they come, my buddy. And I think that
exactly. Oh my goodness.
Rasputin sent a dick pic 100 years ago. He was the first. But I mean, I just feel bad for his kids. Do you imagine if your father's really was pickled in an erotic museum? Like, how mortifying. I guess that family doesn't care because once you go rasp, you don't go back. So, and like I said, I'm sure the people that tangoed with Rasputin probably were very traumatized. I am so sorry for those little girls that were dealt that hard blow. But it is kind of comical that we can see this now and make him feel like less of a man because we are literally laughing at him over 100 years later. So, you guys, I'll give you the date. I didn't give you guys the death date. The death date was, hold on one second, was on, actually, we're coming up on the anniversary of the death date, 30th of December, 1916. So maybe you guys on the 30th of December, we can all just get penis candles and light them.
In honor of Rasputin. Yeah, I think we should do that.
The wiener for Rasputin, just to make him feel even more like a douchebag. So, Vanessa, I'm glad you woke up early today too, girl. And I hope you guys who are drinking are nice and toasty now.
Exactly. There should be a lot of drunk people out there right now. Happy holidays, y'all. Happy holidays.
That's our Christmas present to you guys. Rasputin's wiener. So,
Oh, wow.
Out there,
Gosh.
I love our audience so much. We have literally the best audience in the whole world.
Oh, totally. No, we do.
I'm pretty good at finding weird stories, but if you guys want to send me, if there's like a really weird story, especially from your country that maybe I'm not familiar with, if you're not from the United States, you can email me ideas and suggestions to esotericatlanta@gmail.com. And I'll look through them, and so I'll do it. You know, if
and then we'll chat about them here. That'll be cool.
Yes. So if you like, I can find stories, but if you guys, if there's like something you want us to talk about, then just let me know, because we're all doing this together. So absolutely.
Indeed, that'll be cool. I'm so happy that you found us as well, Anessa. Well, not scented, Katie. No scented candles.
I dare you. I dare you. If there is someone in your office or someone you really don't like, I dare you guys, go and get a wiener candle and like make it smell really bad. And just be like, it's a relic in Russia.
How funny.
Great power. Oh man. So
okay, well, that was very, very interesting. Hang on, are we sure we don't have any more pictures we need to show? Yeah, right? I think we've seen what there's Alexi, the executioner. Hey, yes, Boney M. We have a picture of Boney M that sang about him. I'm wondering why they're saying about him.
I have a theory about their song, because it was not big in the United States at all. Like, nobody that grew up in the 70s ever knew that song. I asked many people. It's a catchy song. It only recently got famous here in the United States.
You're kidding me. It was like big hits. Yeah, big hits.
United States, no one knew. I interviewed a lot of people. I was like, is this song, do you remember this song from your childhood? None of them did. They thought it was a modern song. And so I did research. I believe that they resurrected that song first in the early 2000s through that dance video game people played. And then on TikTok, I think they resurrected that song. And this is just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, because I think that the dark cults, the controllers, are trying to harness Rasputin's energy and put us in that hypnotic state. Because they that Rasputin, they have a very hypnotic.
Now, isn't it interesting? I mean, Putin is current president of Russia. I mean, without the Rasputin. And also like recently, in these YouTube shorts or reels or whatever you call it, you have him there, and this song is playing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Rah, rah, Rasputin. I cannot believe it, because that Boney M was very big in South Africa. I mean, and they still every year they have their Christmas songs playing. But that one, Rah Rah Rasputin, was a very, very big hit.
Yeah, it was one. And
was it the 70s or 80s, somewhere around there?
It came out in 1978, and everyone I talked to that was around during that time thought it was a modern song, because it was not big here in the United States. And I think because the main battle we're seeing really play out here in the United States, I think that they targeted the United States and resurrected it for black magic purposes, to get people hypnotized and to pull in the energy of Rasputin, because Rasputin put people under hypnotic trances. And
but wouldn't that then also be with Putin? I mean, if you look at it, because Putin.
It's global now. I mean, I think they pulled it up with the Americans because it's global. And so it's putting people in this hypnotic trance, and it got big on TikTok, which, I mean, I love. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I find TikTok entertaining, but people get stuck in that trance. And so I've been very suspicious of this song, even though it's a great song. I mean, it's a fun song, but I've been very suspicious of what they're doing with this song. And if he is a fourth density entity at this point, that would mean, in layman's term, that he is a demon. At this point, he graduated to the realm of demon, if you think about that energy. And so if they're harnessing the Rasputin occultism to try to control the world, then are they going to use his hypnotic spell casting through a song venerating him in order to capture the attention of I don't know. I could be completely wrong. It could just be just a catchy song.
That makes sense. Makes sense that that's very possible, and especially with Putin in power, Rasputin, Putin.
Yeah.
When you're looking at, I mean, and I'm going back to about a year ago now, especially, they had lots of these shorts on YouTube, you know, when they do with Putin.
Yeah.
And, you know, doing walking or just pictures or, you know, him doing stuff, but the song in the background as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is my kind of perspective. It is a great, Angel Love said it's very catchy. Yeah, it's a great song. It really is a great, fun song to dance to. And I think you can enjoy the music if you just understand that there's a possibility that there's not fair. If you know, if that knowledge is there, that you know what it is, I think you can enjoy it without allowing it to do what they want it to do, if that makes sense. It's like when you know television is nothing but programming. Like, I watch reality TV. I make no bones about it. I love my trashy reality TV. But I know what it is. I know that it's not real. I know that they're doing things to make people think a certain way. I know that. And so therefore you kind of balance.
You don't get caught up in it. You can yeah, I'm the same. I like brainless stuff to watch just when I'm just unwinding and too much of something, and I'll just go shh.
Exactly. When you do the work we do all day, especially you, Shanti, sometimes you just want to put on some junk food for your brain and watch some.
And I watch Say Yes to the Dress. Have you ever watched Say Yes to the Dress?
Yeah,
I love watching Say Yes to the Dress.
I go trashier. I love Vanderpump Rules, Real Housewives. Like, I like to watch some rich bitches throw vodka shots on each other and scream about.
No, you know, my favorite is the southern Say Yes to the Dress. It's like these girls that go to bridal shops and they try their wedding dresses. It's lovely. It's all romantic and everything. But then you get Kleinfeld in New York, and then the one in, I think it's Atlanta, with the Southern Bells going.
When you come visit, I'll take you to that location. I know exactly where it is. So you can see
Laurie's her name, and she's got this gay boy that works with her. They're divine. I love it. I just love watching them engage, and all these girls get their wedding dresses, and I'm going, oh, that's so nice. And I wonder how many have actually had happy endings.
Yeah, I think, you know, as long as, so with I think when you're knowledgeable and you know what's happening, you're not going to get swept away in the mysticism of it all. So you guys, it's a great catchy song. So if you want to dance to it, you know that there's a possibility it could be used for nefarious purposes, and that you have the power.
Yeah, there's actually one at the moment. I actually posted it on my Facebook a couple of days ago with Tom Hiddleston. And I do believe he's an Australian. And in fact, when I interviewed Adrian John Wells maybe 2 years ago, is that one of those original Australian survivors? Sure, crazy stuff. He was actually trafficked by his father was head of the unions in Australia, and he was trafficked by Reagan, so in that age.
Yeah.
And he spoke a lot about Tom Hiddleston, being part of the CIA and really not cool. And there's a song now that I actually pasted on my Facebook with Tom Hiddleston dancing. I mean, he dances very well to this Rasputin song, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's that there. Yeah, so that's very interesting. Says a lot. So just be smart, kids. Just know we're in a war, and there's going to be controlled opposition, and there's going to be all sorts of infiltration, and we're in a battle right now. And so as long as so I would highly suggest just even if you don't believe it all, it's just interesting to see the just for yourself to kind of see the perspective that the law of one takes, because for me it does. It's not my spiritual practice, but it gives me a perspective that I didn't have before, and that I'm grateful for. Right. So yeah. For sure.
I love the Law of One. I must say that those books were given to me. I've got 1, 2, and 3. How many are there?
I think there are 4. I'd have to double check, but we have the whole library here.
They're amazing. So, it gives a lot of very, very interesting, and that was given to me years and years ago by a friend of mine. Actually, she copied them for me. It's like photocopied.
Oh wow!
Very amazing
stuff, and I think it really does. It's kind of like a manual for what's going on right now, and so you understand it from a very intellectual perspective versus an emotional one. And so if you can like intellectually understand it, you can better control your emotions and put them where they need to be, and to make them more powerful. So anyway, but yeah. Well, I hope everyone. I saw Jeremy. You wished me a happy holidays. You too, Jeremy. And I hope everybody else has a wonderful holiday, you guys. And thank you. Thank you guys. We just have the coolest audience, don't we, Shanti? I think
totally. It's so fun.
That join us. I mean, you guys are hysterical. And Lanessa, I like sister wives too. That polygamy. It's another train wreck. Like, it fascinates me. I'm like, this is never gonna work. Like, I just like, this is never gonna work. So yeah. So I hope you guys. I just thank you guys for sitting through these weird stories and being so freaking funny about it, and adding your humor to it as well, because that's one thing we can do. The darkness can't. We can actually laugh, and the darkness can't. So
there we go, ladies. One final glimpse for you. One final glimpse. Okay, sorry that I have to like take it off now.
Don't be jealous, man. Don't be jealous.
Everyone can't have a pickled wiener. And I hope you're, I don't know who's all get very drunk out there today after the show, but yay. Okay, guys and gals, thank you so, so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful, we won't see you for about a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, we've got
next Monday is Christmas, and the Monday after that is New Year. But we see you Wednesday, Brice.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, we are on Solutions.
Yeah, for sure, sure.
So we'll see you on Wednesday on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And I'm not sure what we'll be chatting about then, but no doubt we'll be chatting about some interesting stuff.
We'll figure it out.
Yay. Okay, everybody, God bless you all. And I wish you lots of health, wealth, and abundance of the best sort. Enjoy your holidays. Cherry buys. And again, thank you so much to our Patreons and everyone who supports this channel. And Joanne, again, I want to say thank you. Joanne, I hope you're still on. I want to talk to you that does with this, who works with the kangaroos and stuff. If you have my email, please email me. Otherwise, I'll get hold of you on the channel, because I want to bring you on next year with Catherine, in fact, to talk about the work you're doing with your joeys, the kangaroos. So love to connect with you on that. And Joanne, thank you so much for always supporting this channel. You're unbelievably generous. So thank you so much. God bless you all, everybody. Okay, bye.